Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the City of Palm Coast City Council business meeting. Today is Tuesday, March the 7th, 2023. It's 6 p.m., and we are in the community wing of City Hall, and I thank you all for taking the time to work with us this evening. And with that, I would ask you to please rise and join me for our Pledge of Allegiance. And stand following the pledge. You are welcome to remain standing for a moment of silence to reflect, meditate, pray, or pause for a moment. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please be seated. If the clerk would call the roll, please.
Mayor Alpin.
Present.
Vice Mayor Danko.
Present.
Councilmember Carly Pontieri. Present. Councilmember Hyder.
Present.
Councilmember Clufus is absent.
In order for city staff to be able to respond to your questions or concerns, please fill out a comment card with your contact information. The comment cards can be found on the table near the agendas or available from the Communications Marketing Director with her hand in the air, seated in the back. Anyone wishing to speak may approach the podium, provide their name, and may speak for up to 3 minutes. This portion of the public comment should focus on matters not on the agenda. Please direct all comments to the mayor, be concise and to the point, avoid delaying or interrupting the proceedings, and do not make any irrelevant, impertinent, or slanderous comments. Any person who becomes disorderly may be barred from making any additional comments and may be removed. And with that, I would invite our members of the public to please come forward to the podium and speak to our city council members. Yes, sir.
Good evening. I'm Mike Martin from Matanzas Woods, and welcome back, Mayor. I hope you recover fully. As you know, Mayor, I spoke to you in January about amending a city charter, and you asked me to look into the entire charter to examine what areas need to be amended. I contacted the Florida League of Cities for assistance, and I studied the charters of the following cities, similar in geographical size and/or population to Palm Coast. And all these are in Florida: Doral, Lakeland, Hollywood, Lauderhill, Pompano Beach, Cape Coral, and Pembroke Pines. Why revisit the charter now? The last Charter Review Commission met in 2017, 6 years ago. Cape Coral's commission meets every 6 years. Our charter sets a maximum length of 10 years for review, but specifically allows for earlier reviews. Is there any urgency? Yes, I believe there is. In giving yourselves the raise that you did, you unknowingly also raised the filing fees for both council by 151% and for mayor by 161%. Since one of your stated goals for raising your salaries was the city needed to attract more, better, and more diverse candidates, will raising the filing fee to $2,402.90 from $960 to run for city council result in more candidates running? Are we trying to price out lower-income candidates? Some cities do not even require nominating petitions, and their filing fees range from $1 to $200. This needs to be rectified. There are other things lacking. We do not have a preamble to our city charter, and we lack a Citizens' Bill of Rights. Shouldn't the citizens of Palm Coast know exactly what the rights are? It appears to be a very bare-bones charter, for example, not defining the mayor's usual duties at all. More definition is needed. The qualifications for city attorney simply read, quote, "The city attorney shall be a member in good standing of the Florida bar," unquote. Shouldn't we require some expertise in municipal law? The city should be striving for the best legal representation possible. The city manager's qualifications are equally obtuse. Shouldn't we require a master's degree in some kind of public administration for our city manager when we hire one? Shouldn't the charter explicitly state how much experience and of what kind? I believe it should. I believe that there are many things in the charter that need to be gone over. Now, I am not setting out to write a charter. That is not my responsibility. Charters need to be written by committees. More people with different experiences and ideas need to be involved. My goal was simply to start this discussion and to provide examples of possible changes. All of you should have copies of the suggestions that I made. Now it is time to involve the public. I hope you all agree that a charter committee needs to be reviewed before the 2024 election, and we have plenty of time to create a review committee. But I believe that we should start the process now in order to allow as much time as possible for public notification and public participation, because in order to get the best possible charter to cover all eventualities to protect our city, we need to invite the citizens of Palm Coast to get involved. So I ask you to start this process of creating a charter review committee, and I hope to be part of the process going forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comment. Is there a next speaker that would like to address City Council at this time? Yes, sir.
Go ahead. All right, thank you. Vincent LaGoria, Palm Coast. My remarks are not intended to impugn any member of staff, council, or the city manager. Every council meeting, we, your constituents, listen to council input regarding how we should conduct ourselves. I now present to council a citizen's creed dealing with council's interaction with constituents. 1, treat constituents as equals. We have the power to hire and fire. 2, constantly employ civility and respect. No to conflict and discord. 3, supply timely answers to citizens' questions and input. Staff managers and the city manager are present. Why can't they give answers? For example, someone changed the wildfire mitigation. I'm even bored of talking about it. I checked with the state. They didn't touch it. So who did? And here we are almost 1 year later, and I've not received an answer, nor has the public. Citizens have lost their communicative right and abilities. Town hall meetings are a rarity. No longer can we go on the agenda for critical matters. Why? No longer can we ask our councilman for additional time. Why? Restore our rights. Expand citizen information on infrastructure, roads, resurfacing, heavy traffic, storm mitigation efforts, drainage, flooding, adherence to established city ordinances, annexation proposals. Westward expansion is ill-conceived. Sorry, Mayor. Many problems remain unsolved in the present city structure. It's not fair to us. Economic development, affordable housing, 2 important requirements, and we have neither. Jobs and transportation. Charter reviews, council grade levels, and salary increase codification is needed. Environmental hazards. New city housing starts which parallel Florida East Coast Railroad lines. Has any member of staff or council met with railroad officials to discuss toxic chemical shipments? Remember, you serve to enforce constituents' needs, not yours. Let's work together for the betterment of Palm Coast and its citizens. I sincerely hope my fellow citizens agree with this citizen's creed. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Next speaker, please.
Robert McDonald, Palm Coast. The reason I'm here tonight is because that little fellow right there is my new grandson, okay? He's 6 months old. So on Sunday, his mom and I decided that it was a beautiful day and we were going to go to Holland Park. Well, that turned out to be a big mistake. As you can see, he's only this big. So we went to put him in what I call a bucket swing, which is the little thing that looks like a bucket, and he sits in it and we push him back and forth. Well, there was none available. So my daughter was smart enough to realize that maybe we should go to Ralph Carter Park. So we go to Ralph Carter, and lo and behold, there's a lot of little bucket swings. Well, you never saw a kid so happy as sitting in a swing all by himself, going like this. Now, I don't know if he was swinging or he was scared shitless, but he was swinging in a swing. But again, so we looked around, and I'm not a great visitor of the parks, but I will be now with him. We noticed that, and this is why we're here tonight, we noticed that there's no security, there's no cops, there's no nothing. So I've been informed that there's a blue phone. Well, if something happens to him, now we got to run to this blue phone, pick it up, hope that somebody's on the other end of the blue phone is going to answer it. Then we have to wait for EMS or the fire service or somebody to come. So I think that with the amount of money that we've been spending lately in this city, and I'm not criticizing anything you're spending on, whether we're going to have a pickleball court, or we're going to have a new firehouse, or we're going to do anything else in the city. We just spent God knows how much money on the community center. Now they realize that after 2 or 3 years, they don't have enough parking. Why didn't somebody think about that before? But anyway, so I'm asking the city to please think about putting I'm not talking about taking a street cop off the street. No, we don't do that. But we got all these COPs that are just riding around the city. Let them go through the parks and put a COP in the park. Because you know what? I don't know how many of you have children, but he's priceless. There's no price on him. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment and congratulations.
Oh, here he comes.
Is there a,
He's coming. He's coming. Go ahead, Nathan, talk to him.
Courtney McDonald, Palm Coast. There's a saying in the parents' world, it takes a village to raise a child. It's true saying more and more these days, from formula shortages to finding deals on clothes and toys, or finding a safe place for our children to play. Recently, as you know, I took my 6-month-old to our $1 million park, Holland Park, which, by the way, has no play equipment safe for children under 5 years old, and has no security of any sort walking around. And I will be completely honest, as a single mom with a young child, I felt very unsafe in a park full of people because there's no security. The first time I felt unsafe in a park, a place that should be a safe haven for children, a place where I used to play for hours, and you and your children probably did too. I then left and drove across town to Brimfire to have my son have his first playground experience at the Holland Park wasn't, and I would never go back and play on any of the equipment there. So he played on the swings that are geared towards children his age. And guess who happened to be in the park patrolling? A sheriff's officer. So I thank them for being out there, as I felt safe. My son was safe. My question is, why, if you were supposed to be part of our village and your job is to help run the city, you're not doing your job and getting officers, even our local COPs, to protect my son, his friends, and the people of your village? But I guess you're too busy still fighting over golf courses and pickleball courts. But at the end of the day, please remember he and his friends are the city's future.
thank you for your comment. Next speaker, please.
For Stone Cimarron Drive, I've been thinking about Al a lot, and I decided to go back onto the street. 62 new residents who've lived here for a short time, want safety on the street. Just last week, my next-door neighbor, Steve Very, who's a mortgage broker, they took out his mailbox, and he was lucky he didn't get run over. This has been going on for 5, 6 years. Prior city council, you guys need to do the right thing here and speed it up. I've given you plenty of articles where the Safety Committee in the United States says safety devices are a way to go. It does not affect the delivery of a fire truck. And you want to know why people don't come here anymore? They're disgusted. Nothing gets changed. We talk, and nothing gets changed. And it gets worse and worse. And as far as traffic, go to next door neighbor. Every area is having a problem, not just Cimarron, every area. It's becoming a disaster. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Next speaker, please.
My name is Andrew Werner, Palm Coast. First of all, I just want to say to the council, thanks for my time. And I totally support the moment of silence that you guys decided to go with. We're a country with the First Amendment of freedom of religion, so I thank you for that right to practice before the council begins. So I'm going to bring up something that I know that has been brought up before the council a few times, probably many times. But because of the price of eggs that have gone up so much, I thought I'd give it another crack. About a year ago, I did a poll on social media, and I polled people whether they were in favor of having domestic chickens as part, within the city limits. And I got about 80% in favor of having chickens, and I think that's a constituents' consensus right there. So all over the country, there's different states that have bigger cities than ours, and they allow chickens. They're having discussions about whether chickens should be 100 feet or 50 feet from the adjacent property. Instead, we're having discussions about whether we're allowed to have them at all. I know that in the state of Texas, there's a bill going through legislature now called, as funny as it sounds, the Texas Chicken Freedom Act, and that would allow everyone in the state of Texas, barring HOAs and things like that, to have the right to chickens in their backyard. The discussion is just like, how many feet per chicken. So, it's, and also with the, with kids nowadays, a lot of people complain about them being on their phones too much. Let's give them something to do, something that is a sustaining practice, something that they can participate in that is beneficial for their family. I'd be glad to be a part of anything that the council puts together as far as a community discussion board about regulations that need to go into place. Hens don't make noise. It wouldn't be a nuisance, especially if your yard is fenced in. I think it's completely doable. It's something that the constituents want, and I think it's something that we should definitely look in. So that's my request for the council, and I hope you all have an excellent evening.
Thank you for your comment. Is there another speaker in the audience that would like to address City Council? Yes, sir.
Gary Kunis, C-section. Ran into a family recently. Name is Tammy Jackson. She was involved in a hit-and-run accident on Route 4, lost her leg. She's a Section 8. She claims she's called the city. They refused to help her find a house because the house she's in is moldy. It's been condemned. She has to be out within a week. She has no place to go. She has a family of 4. Her daughter that was involved in that accident has kidney problems and may have to go on dialysis. They do not have the money for this. Not too long ago, we gave a family over $100,000 to fix their house for a similar problem and room at a hotel to accommodate them. We need to do something for this lady. I mean, she has to be out. The home is owned by an individual in New York that refuses to fix it. She thinks she wants to sell it. If she does fix it, she's throwing her out anyway because the house has been condemned. This needs to be taken care of. We have all this money we throw around on pork and so forth. We need to do something for the citizens. You also need to do something about this concrete dust. There's a house on 24 Comanche that did not have a permit. Wife looked it up. They were doing something in the house on the concrete floor and used a leaf blower to blow all the dust out in the canal. A little girl was playing in the house next door. She was covered with the dust. The people's homes are covered with the dust, both sides of the canal. That has silica in it. Silica causes lung cancer. We've talked about this. I've given you paperwork on this. It needs to be done quickly. You got pavers that don't care. They just let the dust go all over the place. When somebody complains to them, they tell them F off. That's not right. There's other people that can do work in your home or outside with no dust at all because they use water and the correct vacuum system to clean it up. This needs to be done. And so far, nothing's been done. We need to do and take care of these people and take care of Tammy. You can contact her on Nextdoor. She's got articles in there. She's trying to sell off her furniture because she's got no place to put it. And she's going to end up on the street in a box. She needs to be taken care of. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Is there anyone left in the audience that would like to address City? Yes, sir.
Hello, I'm Josh Fabian, and I'm here today to advocate for the right to keep chickens in my backyard as well. I firmly believe this is a reasonable and responsible request, and I'd like to explain why. One of the primary reasons I would wish to keep chickens is to have a consistent supply of fresh and organic eggs for me and my family. And as we know, eggs can be quite expensive with inflation and processing plants burning down and supply chain issues. So this would save money and allow me to have a good supply of healthy and a sustainable source of food. Moreover, it's important to recognize that throughout history, humans have always cultivated their own food sources. Our ancestors were farmers or gatherers, and they relied on their own animals or crops to sustain themselves. And by prohibiting chickens, we are denying a fundamental human practice that has been in place for thousands of years. While I understand that some people may be concerned about the noise, smell, or sanitation issues, it's worth noting that chickens, as long as you don't have roosters, they are quieter than dogs, and dogs are allowed, and the other things can be easily managed with proper maintenance on your chicken coop and yard. Additionally, there are many benefits to keeping chickens in your backyard, such as pest control, and the chicken waste is a natural fertilizer. In addition to the reasons I've already outlined, there are other factors considered that make the case for allowing backyard chickens even stronger. With the recent economic issues, supply chains disruptions, more people are turning towards self-sustaining ways to have food and ensure their own food security. All right. Okay, and by allowing people to keep backyard chickens, the city would be supporting this growing movement towards self-sufficiency. Furthermore, we cannot predict what the future may hold in terms of economic or supply chain issues, and by allowing people to keep backyard chickens, we would provide a level of insurance against potential food shortages or price increases. It is better to have the ability to rely on our own resources than to be at the mercy of external factors beyond our control. In summary, the benefits of allowing backyard chickens in the city go beyond simply having access to fresh and healthy eggs. It is about supporting a practice that has been part of human civilization for thousands of years and promoting a more sustainable lifestyle, supporting self-sufficiency, and ensuring that our community is prepared for any potential future challenges. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you for your comment. Anyone else wanting to? Yes, sir.
Nathan Phelps, also from Palm Coast. I know there's been two other gentlemen up here talking about chickens, and I want to remain cordial, keep my sunny side up. Thank you very much for your time. I've never been to one of these before, and I appreciate the 3 minutes I will use. I know they've spoken about a couple other things, and I wanted to speak on my own separate concerns so that we don't get our message scrambled here. I'm a parent of a young child, and I know there are a lot of families with children the same age that are considering homeschooling as an opportunity to teach their kids. And there's a movement that's incorporating more natural skills, more natural hands-on, learning math by measuring and cutting wood. Some people some would say chicken coops, others would say gardens. And then a lot of these same, one example is a program called wild and free. And some of their examples are from people who have farms, and they say our kids learned a lot by connecting with nature, and they talk about the responsibilities of raising children that take care of chickens or other animals, the collecting the eggs. There's so much that can come in a natural line of skill set and use just from having animals to take care of from their birth to even what they provide for us, incorporating into natural life. And with more and more of society being disconnected from nature, you just, in a community where everything's self-sustaining, kids don't have to do as much, but giving them this responsibility leads to their growth, their personal development, their character, and natural skill sets that you can incorporate. You have math, you have science. Most learning can incorporate to raising animals and chickens, as I said, being quiet, being beneficial to your yard, pest-wise, fertilizer-wise. There's so many things that we can benefit from having chickens. And I also know that my wife and daughter both just really, really like chickens as they get fluffier and fluffier and fluffier. You've seen children smile at fluffy things. I don't need my last minute. I just want to say thank you very much for this time and consideration.
Thank you for your comment. Last call for public comment. Anyone else like to address city council members at this time? Seeing no one come forward, I will close this section of public comment, and I will defer to our city manager. Are there any of the topics brought up, comments this evening that you would like to address at this time, or follow up with staff and get back to our residents?
Yeah, most of the items presented by members of the public tonight will work with getting feedback to them if they completed our comment card through our communications director. And also on the security in our parks, I've asked our Parks and Rec director to reach out to the family and make sure that we extend, obviously, a courtesy of better understanding their concerns, but we also have to keep some information very close to us on our security protocols.
Very good. Any other members want to address any particular topic?
I just want to say that with regards to the road safety, I would encourage everybody to come or look in the agenda and look at when our strategic action plan priorities are going to be discussed during the meetings, because some of your concerns are being heard by us up here, and they have made our priorities. So please come to those meetings when you look at the agendas and you see that the strategic action plan is on the agenda, so that you can see that we are listening, we are hearing you, specifically with regards to road safety that is being addressed. So I encourage everybody to specifically look for those meetings.
Thank you. City Manager?
Yes, I have the budget calendar here in front of me, and so for the members of the public, I'd like to reference 2 dates coming up. That's March 28th, the staff evaluation workshop number 1. Let me put on my glasses just to make sure I got that right. March 28th, that's correct. And then the second workshop is April 25th. And then the actual proposal to adopt priorities is scheduled for May 2nd.
Thank you for the information. Very good. I don't want to appear to be a chicken, so I will offer this out. I am a trustee and sit on the board of Florida's Agricultural Museum. So I would just ask you either to contact me or the office so that I can make a connection for you all to talk to the Ag Museum, which has it's not located in the city itself, but within our county, which has a mission of teaching our children and adults about Florida's agriculture. It might be a wonderful reference and resource for you to be aware of. And with that, I'll finish up public comment, City Council, and we'll move to item E on the agenda, which is minutes from past meetings. I would ask for a motion to approve the minutes of the City Council business meeting of February the 21st, 2023. May I have a motion?
Make that motion.
I have a motion from Vice Mayor Danko to approve. May I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a second from Councilperson Pontieri. Any other discussion? No. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Does the clerk have the count?
Yes, motion passes 4-0.
Very good, thank you. We'll move now to the next section, which will be our proclamations. Our first proclamation for this evening, whereas Palm Coast has experienced severe weather in the past in the form of extreme rainfall or tropical system events, resulting in flooding in various areas of the city, and this flooding has caused damage and flood losses to homes and buildings in all areas, whether they are high risk, special flood hazard areas, or low to moderate risk flood zones. And whereas Palm Coast is a voluntary participant in the National Flood Insurance Program that provides residents with the opportunity to protect themselves against flood loss through the purchase of flood insurance at reduced insurance premium rates, as well as setting higher regulatory standards to reduce the flood risk and potential flood damage to their property. And whereas the reduction of loss of life and property damage can be achieved when appropriate flood preparedness, control, and mitigation measures are taken before the flood, and whereas public education and awareness of potential weather hazards and methods of protection are critical to the health, safety, and welfare of residents, the Florida Floodplain Managers Association have declared this week of March the 6th, 2023 as Flood Awareness Week to promote awareness and increase knowledge of flood risk, the availability of flood insurance, flood protection methods, and how to prepare for emergencies. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed by the Palm Coast City Mayor and City Council to recognize the week of March the 6th, 2023 as Flood Awareness Week. Signed this date by myself, Mayor David Alphen. And let me turn the mic right over to the expert in floodplain management. So Jordan, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Alphen. I just want to thank City Council for their continued support in our floodplain management endeavors, and thank Ms. Bevan for starting a wonderful program with this.
I'm going to put you on the hook for a minute. So it's my understanding that we have more than one floodplain manager certified employee in the city of Palm Coast. Is that correct? So just very, very briefly, what does it take to earn such a certification?
So you need to go through usually a training course, and then you have to take a 3-hour exam to be qualified as a certified floodplain manager from the Association of State Floodplain Managers. So it takes a good bit of studying and tenacity to take that exam.
So we have a commitment within our city hall to make that a priority.
Absolutely.
I think if I'm not mistaken, our city manager also holds that same certification.
I do. I achieved the certification in 2007 and remain committed to the program. And I like to just applaud Jordan for taking over as floodplain administrator and succeeding so much. And then our other floodplain managers, and just to echo City Council's commitment to our stormwater management program, that really is a tool to help mitigate flood. And I can't help with one more statistic. So there's over 1,500 communities committed to this program across the United States. And of those, 25 have only achieved a Class 4 rating or better. In the state of Florida, only 5 have done that, and we are one of those 5.
Sounds like a master's degree to me. Very good. So it goes without saying, while we're fooling with photography, that with the Now, just as importantly, to recognize some of the tragic happenings in our community. And I heard the comment earlier this evening about, it takes a village. Well, there are always those members of the village that need our help, more than others, and that's why the village concept is so appropriate. So the next proclamation maybe addresses that just a little bit. Whereas multiple myeloma, the second most common blood cancer worldwide and the fastest rising hematologic cancer, is a disease of plasma cells in the bone marrow. It is called multiple because the cancer can occur at multiple sites. And whereas in the United States, life expectancy for those who are diagnosed with multiple myeloma ranges between 4 and 10 years, with close to 13,000 people having lost their lives just this past year. And whereas still, with the challenges of applying therapies that include combinations of chemotherapy, radiation, and stem cell transplants, there is no known cure for this debilitating form of cancer. And whereas for the past 9 years, Mrs. Hack and her family have advocated for City Council to annually recognize March as Multiple Myeloma Awareness Month. And whereas even as Jenny Hack lived her most beautiful life on 20, she courageously continued to provide comfort and kindness as an ambassador for the Palm Coast Multiple Myeloma Support Group. And whereas her warrior-like participation in 5 experimental clinical trials made her a pioneer for guiding experts to seek to achieve an early diagnosis and implement the most effective and safest treatments for myeloma patients. And whereas, thanks to the people like Jenny Hack, Palm Coast is continually committed to increasing awareness of multiple myeloma and encouraging private efforts to enhance research, funding, and education programs. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed by the Mayor and the City Council of the City of Palm Coast, Florida, that the month of March 2023 be officially designated as Multiple Myeloma Awareness Month. Signed by the Mayor of City of Palm Coast, myself, David Alphen. Thank you. Is there, I'm sorry, I would have had you come up before. Is there one in the group that would like to comment for a moment? Would you be willing to do that? Please do. Just introduce yourself.
My name is Ani Levine. We are members of the myeloma support group here in Palm Coast. Hearing the words of this, Mr. Mayor, I am happy to also say that the longevity with the help of medical science made my multiple myeloma, although it is incurable at this time, we can live a long time, but there are people that are living at 30 years, at 20 years, with the right medications and with the support of the community, of each other. And thank you so much. And we're grateful for everything that the city has done for us.
We appreciate your being part of our village.
Thank you.
Come up with me for a minute. We move to the next item on the agenda, but before we begin today with the City Council business portion of the meeting, I want to take a moment to discuss City Council processes relating to approval or denial of items presented to Council at all business meetings. For each workshop, City Council receives a comprehensive overview of each item. At that time, it is Council's opportunity to provide opinions and ask questions on each item. Just as a reminder, items that are quasi-judicial in nature will require Council to base their decisions on only what is presented at the scheduled public hearings conducted at the scheduled business meetings. The purpose of a business meeting is for Council to review and weigh all the evidence and take action, with decisions based on all information presented both at the prior workshop and today. And with that, I'll move to item G on the agenda. And Council, I would ask you to please read the ordinance into the record.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. This is an ordinance, second reading, an ordinance of the City of Palm Coast, Florida, establishing Colbert Landings Community Development District pursuant to Chapter 190 Florida statutes, providing for functions and powers of the district, designating the initial Board of Supervisors of the district, providing for severability, providing for conflicts, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you. Jordan, a presentation?
We don't have anything to add at this point. I'm available for questions, as is the applicant, but we're ready to take action on this item.
Okay, so let's start with City Council. Are there any questions from your prior presentation regarding this ordinance?
I have no questions, thank you. No questions.
Jordan, I just would ask you, and I don't think it's repeating, but the advantages to, it's my understanding that homeowners within a CDD will enjoy a more attractive, lesser price because the cost of infrastructure that their community puts into their community will be deferred over a long period of time, as opposed to it being built into the purchase price up front on the first day.
I would defer that question to Council.
Yeah, that's a question for the applicant. I mean, CDDs are assessed separately, a separate tax, based on, repayment of those infrastructure costs and maintenance and repairs for the years coming. So it essentially functions as its own smaller local government. I don't, comparatively, I don't know if that's a increase or not from another type of, versus an HOA, depending on those assessments, versus somewhere in an unincorporated part of the county that isn't within a development. I mean, there's a lot of factors there to be able to
There could be. So I did some homework, and throughout the state, if you look at the result of CDDs, because of the bonding mechanism over 20 to or more years, it does have a positive influence on what the actual startup purchase price of a home would be. But again, it is variable and is dependent on a lot of factors. Are you able to comment on the upside regarding the city for the introduction of a CDD? And the reason I bring it up, and I'm sorry to put you on the spot, is that I personally would envision that there will be additional CDDs in the future.
Yes.
I think we're at roughly 5 now throughout the city of Palm Coast.
I believe, yep.
I could see that number increasing over time. But as far as this council person is concerned, I think that there is a benefit to the city as well in terms of the community or the developer having to apply their own infrastructure and cost into their project, and the ongoing supervision and maintenance of their roadways and other common facilities. So just a general statement, and I realize that each situation is unique. So with that, I would open up the comment to the public. Would you like to make a public comment? Please come forward. And just for anybody, in terms of acronyms, CDD stands for Community Development District.
Good evening. I'm Jennifer Kalinsky. I actually am here representing the petitioner and just wanted to address a couple of the comments that you made. And we're happy to do, and we often do for cities and counties that are relatively new to CDDs, a introduction to CDD, we call it CDD 101, that gives you the statutory framework, pros and cons, data that we've collected over the years. My predecessor firm was actually instrumental in the enactment of Chapter 190 back in the 1980s, Wade Hopping and Hopping, Green, and Sams. And so we've got a lot of data statewide on, like you said, data points on homeowner prices, the downturn, what happened after the downturn, and the benefits of having a CDD in place versus an HOA in place for both cities and counties, because when there was a default, those roadways and those improvements and HOAs just sat there with nobody maintaining them. But with a CDD, you have this unit of government with professional staff and a collectible assessment on the tax roll, 100% collection rate, even during the downturn, that was able to continue to operate this infrastructure. So cities and counties saw a lot less negative feedback on developers and HOAs when things went wrong. When things are going right, it's a similar fact pattern. The legislature right now is considering a bill to introduce resiliency districts, which essentially would be a special district financing mechanism for condo associations, for like the Sunrise collapse, where you'd have this 30-year bonding capacity, rather than a 1-year special assessment that negatively impacts the homeowners that are living there now, rather than saying if you live in that home for 5 years, you're only paying the assessment for that 5-year term. And they're also potentially using special districts to finance the sea level rise impact. So things like Martin County is experiencing with bridges being too low, or stormwater being inundated from sea level rise. You could use a special district as a mechanism for tax exempt financing. So there are a lot of benefits to cities and counties. Most of the homeowners, 48 of the top 50 most successful communities in Florida are special districts, and the reason for that largely is that you have very high levels, highly amenitized, highly maintained public infrastructure that benefits the community, and so your property values are highly maintained.
Good. Thank you for the comments.
Sure, thank you.
Next speaker, please.
I'm Sally Arnoff. I live in unincorporated Flagler County Sugar Mill Plantation, and I'm with the Citizens Monitoring Developments. We are opposed to CDDs and respectfully request that you get information that is non-biased, that is not a marketing spin. From our discussions, and I've done a tremendous amount of research on CDDs, and I have spoken with elected officials, there is no benefit to the city for approving a CDD. The benefit is strictly for the developer. In the past, you have wonderful communities that are financed not by CDDs, but by the traditional method. And if the development has a good financial plan and a good amenity and approach to their development, they can get financing from other sources that are not passed on to the residents that buy in that community. One of the negatives is you were referring to the non-ad valorem taxes. The tax is a percentage of what the bonds that have been purchased by the developer, a percentage of that, and they have a huge formula, is applied to each lot owner. For 30 years, that dollar amount, and in some communities, we're talking in excess of $7,000 annually, that dollar amount appears on the resident's tax bill. If they don't pay that, you know what happens with tax delinquency. On the flip side of that, after the 30 years is over, the fee does not go away because it is shifted to maintenance, and it continues as a tax bill. HOAs, on the other hand, pay for much of the amenities and what the residents enjoy. HOA fees will not result in a tax lien. Non-payment of an HOA fee would result in a lien against the house, but the owner is not going to lose their home like they will with the tax delinquency. And I have many other examples, but I encourage you to look at it non-marketing spin at what is ahead for the residents. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Are there any other members of the public that would like to address City Council on this agenda item at this time? Seeing no one come forward, I'll come back to City Council. Is there additional discussion regarding this item?
I have none.
I would just add that I have considerable experience having served on HOA and been very closely aligned with CDDs in the area. So I will stand by my original statements in terms of how they work together and align with, can align with the vision of the city of Palm Coast. But if there's no further discussion, since this is a business meeting and this is an ordinance of second read, I would ask for a motion regarding this ordinance.
I'll make the motion.
I have a motion from Vice Mayor Danko, and the motion is?
To adopt.
To approve. May I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a second from Councilperson Pontieri. Is there any additional discussion by City Council? Seeing none, I would go ahead and ask for a roll call vote.
Vice Mayor Danko?
Yes.
Councilmember Carly Pontieri?
Yes.
Councilmember Hyder?
Yes.
Mayor Alpin?
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0.
Thank you. We move now to agenda item H, which is resolutions, and number 5. If council would please read that resolution into the record.
Of course. This is a resolution pertaining to 4,000 PSI concrete with fiber mesh purchase. A resolution of the City Council of the City of Palm Coast, Florida, approving a master price agreement with Argos USA LLC for 4,000 PSA concrete with fiber mesh, authorizing the city manager or designee to negotiate, finalize, and execute any necessary documents, providing for severability, providing for conflicts, providing for implementing actions, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you, Councilor. Carl, you have a...
No presentation, I just have a brief explanation. This is our annual contract. Due to the fluctuations in material prices, we bid this out annually to get the best dollars in the market at the time. And this is something that is used citywide by various departments for, could be driver replacements, concrete mitered ends on our pipe replacement projects, and sidewalk repairs, various projects throughout the city.
Okay, I had two comments, if you permit me. One is part of this an effort to cap price increases to help us not suffer unknown increases going forward whatever the length of the contract is?
Right, it's a fixed cost for a year.
Right. And number two, when we bid these things out, and I don't know if this is appropriate, are there regional considerations in terms of neighboring or regional partners in purchases, other municipalities, other counties, that we can buy in bulk? And I don't know if it's appropriate because I don't know the nature of the materials, but is that something we look at?
Yes and no. In this particular item, concrete is more regionally located and where it can be used, so it's less that we could use a more broader approach to using that purchasing power, but something in terms of a pipe material or something like that, we do it now across the city, and that's why we have this one agreement, because it's a citywide contract that all departments are going to use, so we do it collectively for the city at this point.
Okay, but we would consider reaching out to see if there is a consortium of buyers, I guess would be an appropriate concept, so that we could, buy with a bigger, a bigger hand to pay a lesser buck if that's possible. I don't know if there are quantity discounts.
Yeah, sometimes that works. In the current market, it's more difficult because even getting the material is difficult now.
Just because of the scarcity.
Right.
Okay. All right. I appreciate it. Very good. City Council members, any questions for Mr. Coate?
I just got a question, Carl. Just how much of an increase are we looking at?
It is, I don't know the number specifically offhand, but I know it is quite an increase. I want to say we're paying maybe $110 a cubic yard, and this bid, I think, is around 150, but don't quote me on those numbers. I'd have to go back and double check those. I know we bid it once, and they came in at $200 a cubic yard, and so we threw those bids out and rebid it. And the current provider is actually was the low bidder on the rebid. Costs have gone up drastically in the past year. A lot of it's with the aggregate in the concrete and just getting the material. It's
I understand. Thank you.
I have no questions.
All right, there are no other questions from City Council, so I would open the item up to the public. Are there any members of the public that would like to comment on this item at this time? Seeing no one come forward, I'll close public comment and come back to City Council. Any last comments? I don't see any. Then I would ask for a motion.
I'll go ahead and make the motion.
I have a motion from Vice Mayor Danko to
approve.
To approve.
Yes.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
I have a second from Councilperson Pontieri. Is there any additional discussion on the item? Seeing none, then let's, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Are there any opposed?
Motion passes 4-0.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda under H6, if council would please read that in for us.
This is a resolution regarding the Florida Department of Transportation locally funded agreements for State Road 100 projects from North Palmetto Street to east of Old Kings Road South. A resolution of the City Council of the City of Palm Coast, Florida, approving 2 fund agreements with FDOT, authorizing the city manager or designee to execute said agreements, providing for severability, providing for conflicts, providing for implementing actions, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you, Councilor. Please proceed.
I'm having difficulty. I'm not seeing the PowerPoint loaded on this machine.
Here comes IT to the rescue. Please proceed without the PowerPoint.
Okay. Apologize for not having the PowerPoint. This project that I'm talking about is on Moody Boulevard, which is also known as State Road 100. And it's going to proceed from the county courthouse on the west to Popeye's driveway, the Popeye Restaurant's driveway, which is just east of Old Kings Road. So that length of Highway 100 is what we're looking at, the DOT doing a repair job. They are looking at coming through, the project is scheduled, if everything stays on course, for being let in August of this year. This is a project that I've been looking forward to for a while. The DOT has been very kind to the city and all the participants that are associated with this project, in that they started communicating with us in the fall of 2019. And they've communicated with us every single year in multiple stages, taking the input from our staff, and I presume they've been taking the input from the city of Bunnell, because they have been actively reaching out, I know, to the city with plan reviews and asking for our inputs and asking for us to contribute design ideas and concepts to the project. When they came to us in 2019, they had this length of Highway 100 plus another length of US 1 that they were going to do a simple milling and resurfacing process on. That is, they're going to take the top layer of asphalt off, and they're going to put a layer back exactly like it, replace the striping, and that was going to be it. The the city had a lot of concerns. They were telling us, this project, when it comes through, 10 years, we aren't going to be back here for 10 years. And a number of hands got raised inside our staff. But what about this? We want sidewalk on Highway 100. But what about this? We want our traffic signals that are span wire replaced with mast arms. What about lighting? What about these other things? And they listened to us. They took that very long project on US 1, cut it in half, took those dollars and reassigned them to the things that the city wanted done on Highway 100 in order to make it a more robust place for everyone to drive on. So we did not know as a staff exactly what date they were looking at, and they didn't know either because of funding can change at any moment as to exactly when it would come up that the expense would be, that the project would go. Right now, we're targeting August of this year as the date it's going to be let. At the time that they talked to us 2 years ago, they estimated that the total value of the project was going to be $7 million. They didn't give us an estimate so far, but you've heard discussions here about how prices in the construction industry have gone up. I couldn't even tell you exactly how much they've gone up in the last 10 years, but it's a large project that's coming through the city. We found it. Thank you. Okay. So the project is, the triangles up there show where the project begins and ends. We're going to be adding sidewalk on the south side of State Road 100. And I apologize, State Road 100, Moody Boulevard, they're the same acronym, so you'll hear me say one and the other. So it is the same road I'm talking about. We're going to be putting patterned decorative sidewalk under I-95 as a gateway entry feature to our city to let people know when they come to the city of Palm Coast, you've entered someplace that's really interesting and exciting to be. Right turn lanes. Seminole Woods Boulevard, the intersection of Highway 100 and Seminole Woods Boulevard, is one of our most congested intersections right now. The DOT agreed to add right turn lanes off of Highway 100 onto Seminole Woods Boulevard and to Town Center Boulevard as part of this project. We have 2 traffic signals on Belterre on State Road 100 that currently are in span wire format. That is, wires supported by posts are holding up the traffic signals. Those are going to be replaced with a mast arm format, and those are some of the major features. There's also some other there's also some minor elements sprinkled in there, and a lot of features that the city received from the DOT that they've built into their project in order for this project to fit how Palm Coast operates all of our systems in terms of traffic signals, roadways, etc. It's been really enjoyable to work with them. Of the items that were put in there are 2 items that the DOT measures and says this is not part of our standard package, and so if we will have the contractor do them to match what the city wishes for, but these are items that the city will have to pay for in order for these to be part of the project. The first one was painting of the mast arms for the traffic signals. We specify a black color for our mast arms. They would typically be galvanized steel finish with as a silver, and that black painting is to match the existing traffic signal mast arms that are also already along Highway 100. The second is the patterned concrete that we're looking to put underneath I-95, both on the north side and the south side. That is an additional item that's outside of their normal palette of things that they would design into a roadway, and they've put an estimate together for what that is going to cost. And these 2 pieces, they're asking for the city to give an acknowledgement that the city will participate in these costs. And once we have given that acknowledgement, they will send us the final documents for the agreement. Some explanation about the costs. The mast arms, we're looking at painting them black. That may seem like a large amount for paint. The traffic signals, as they're designed, are a galvanized steel finish. The ones that we're painting black are also a galvanized steel finish. Galvanized steel coating is a special coating that's not designed to adhere to paint. You have to have they have to be specially treated. The galvanized steel feature is still there. It needs to be specially treated in order to accept a paint covering. And then the paint that's being put on here is being put on with as an anodized paint, that it's being put on electrostatically, a special covering. The advantage of putting the paint on in that format is, barring some major injury like a vehicle crashes into it, that paint will last 15 years, which is an extraordinary amount of time for a paint that's standing out in the sun and the rain to last on a metal structure. The patterned concrete, currently there's a patterned concrete on the north side of I-95. When the state was doing their evaluation of the roadway, they determined that patterned concrete is currently in a process of failing. They determined that it would need to be removed. If we wanted them to put back just standard sidewalk, just ordinary sidewalk, that would be at no cost to the city. If we want the patterned concrete, then there would be an additional cost above what it would cost them to install the patterned concrete. So this price for patterned concrete is an estimate from them, and they're going to actually charge the city what the final cost is for patterned concrete. The reason for that is a patterned colored concrete could be many, many different things. You could have 14 different colored blocks in this colored pattern. So the state doesn't have a good sample for what that actually is going to look like. So their prices that they have in their history have a wide dispersion as to what they could be. So this is their estimate based on the small sample that they have, what they think it may be charged. It may be more than this, may be less. So the final charge to the city may be more than this, may be less than this for the patterned concrete. So ultimately, what this presentation asking for the city council to consider, would you authorize for city staff to pay up to $150,000 to the Florida DOT to request these enhancements to the State Road 100 construction project? And would you authorize the city manager to complete the contract documents with Florida DOT for this same project?
Okay, thank you. So if I may, let me start out. So I'm our city council's liaison to the TPO, and I sit on the TPO's executive committee, so I get to hear a lot of presentations about exactly this kind of thing. I'm also very sensitive as we start to walk through the strategic action planning initiative that leads us to the budget on the simple concept of wants and needs. Now, I'm struggling with the day-to-day improvement or benefit to our residents for painting the posts. And it seems to me that, you know, if there were a surplus at some point in time, it could be done as an after. It may be more difficult, but it could be done. The patterned concrete, also, I'm not sure that I think it's a necessity, but let me tell you what my biggest concern is. By agreeing to add to what DOT is offering, in my mind, sets some form of precedent. I'm not at all interested in setting a precedent that we are a budget that looks for bells and whistles or add-ons or anything else. I think that my personal opinion is that if DOT claims it's safe, and that city staff would also agree with me that the resulting structure and construction and configuration would be safe, then I, as one city council member, would be satisfied without those two additions. That's just my opinion. So let me open it up to the rest of city council to share their thoughts.
So, question first. Not painting these things, how long will they last?
If we do not paint them, they will come with the galvanized steel finish, and the galvanized steel finish is what protects the mast arm, not the paint.
Right. So if we don't paint them, we don't have to paint every 15 years, and these things probably have a pretty long lifespan without being painted, I would guess.
Galvanized steel mast arms typically will last, have an expected lifespan of 50 years.
And I appreciate wanting to make this separation and make it look like you're entering a special place, and Palm Coast is a special place. But I got my home insurance bill a few days ago. And I'm sure all of you, if you haven't gotten yours, you'll get it soon. My home insurance went from $1,600 a year to $2,900 a year. $1,100 increase. And it's all because of construction cost, material cost, and some of it has to do with hurricanes that we have in Florida. But I think folks at home that are getting these types of bills, along with all of the other expenses from buying eggs, as somebody mentioned earlier, to gasoline, to everything we purchase, I think that we really need, at this point in time, to cut back on these nice bells and whistles. We just simply can't afford it. And so, I mean, I think it sounds lovely. I wish we had the money, but I've got to be honest. I cannot vote to authorize this amount of money for this type of project.
Councilperson Pontieri?
Thank you. Did I hear you say that we could repair the sidewalk for $0?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. I have nothing further.
No comment.
All right. Again, I want to thank city staff. I always would expect city staff to bring forward every possible opportunity so that we have, I don't ever want to look back and say that we missed considering something or thinking something. But please understand that we are juggling or balancing, a variety of issues, and safety and improvement of the roadway certainly top the list. So this is not an attempt to scrimp or save on a major roadway construction project. It's an attempt to fit it into what we vision as the available resources and protect the residents' pocketbook going forward. Carl, did you have something to add at this time?
I just want to give a little bit of history. The city has entered into numerous agreements with DOT for these signals on US 1 and 100. So this would be the first signal that goes up that's not black in the city. So I just want to make council aware of that and to make you aware that we have done numerous agreements in the past for this type of signal.
Okay, I appreciate that. And I'll just give city council this option. I don't recommend it, but I'll offer it up. If you had a need to drive up and down, how long is the stretch that we're talking about?
The stretch of Highway 100
Yeah.
we're looking at is, I'm not sure, but I
6
believe
miles?
I think it's shorter than
Shorter than that, okay. I don't remember.
3.5 miles.
3.5, so they cut it in half, okay. If you needed to drive up and down and in your mind so I offer that out, but I'm not, do you think it's necessary? Is that something that you all felt compelled? Okay, good. With that then, I would open up this item to comment by the public. Would anybody like to comment on the item? Yes, sir.
As the mayor and city council, Mike Martin, Matanzas Woods. You guys are the leaders of Palm Coast, and the citizens look to you for good governance and for knowledge that we don't have to make the right decisions. It's a sidewalk. People walk on it. What difference does it make if it's a pattern? It's not like it's leading anywhere. It's under 95. The only people I've ever seen traveling there usually are homeless people with signs asking for money. So I'm not sure why you would even consider spending $150,000 to spruce up a sidewalk that's going to get dirty because people walk on it. So I would urge you to say no. And as long as we have, we can get what we need without putting out any money, that's what I urge you to do, to be frugal, because everybody knows costs are only going up. And the one thing we don't want to see next year is an increase in our taxes because you're spending this money on frivolities. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Are there any other members of the public that would like to address City Council on this agenda item at this time? I see no one stepping forward, so I'll close public comment. I'll come back to the dais. Any final discussion on this item?
Again, if we had the money, it's a very nice gesture. If someone could show me that painting these things black would be a safety issue, then I would be concerned about it. But just to do some decorations at this point in time, something I can't go for.
I don't think that it's necessary at this time. I think that we could use the money wiser somewhere else.
All right, well, in that, I guess I would call for a motion.
I'll make a motion not to approve this.
Second.
So I have a motion from Vice Mayor Danko, a second from Councilperson Pontieri. Is there any additional discussion by City Council? Seeing none, let's go ahead and do a roll call vote.
Excuse me? I understand you don't wish to.
I'm sorry, hold on. I'm already at a motion and a second, and we're at City Council discussion. Does City Council agree to let staff make another comment before we vote?
Sure, absolutely.
Everybody? Is that okay with everyone?
Yes.
Okay, I don't know if I'm violating procedure, Council, but I'd like to hear City staff's comment.
Would you still consider whether you will authorize the city manager to go into agreements with FDOT so we can move the project along?
So the motion on the floor is to deny the two items that are on the agenda. So what I would ask you to do is bring that back. If you felt, because it would be a different item at that time.
Okay, thank you.
Right. So your motion is still holds?
We're not, we're not nixing the.
And the second, Council, are you good with the motion? Mm-hmm. Okay, then roll call, please.
Vice Mayor Danko?
Yes.
Councilmember Carly Pontieri?
Yes.
Councilmember Hyder?
Yes.
Mayor Alphen?
Yes. And thank you for the presentation. I appreciate it. And we'll look forward to coming back with your comment.
Okay.
All right, we now move to public participation. Are there any members of the public that would like to address City Council with any comments that are not part of this evening's agenda?
Mike Martin, Matanzas Woods. I've learned that the former Matanzas Woods Golf Course, which is under development, is going to go remediation on the arsenic contamination that is present there. I have not spoken to planning and zoning, but one of my neighbors has, and they were told that the city is not going to get involved in this remediation effort because no one has the expertise. I think that's a very backwards and very poorly thought out response. While nobody may have the expertise for dealing with contamination in the golf course, there are other golf courses in the city. Nobody knows what's going to happen to Cypress Knolls when the present owner dies. Maybe it will be sold. So whatever happens at Matanzas Woods may well be setting a precedent for what happens on the rest of the golf courses if and when they may be sold and go to development. So I would urge the city council and I'd urge the city manager to get the Department of Planning and Zoning involved in the remediation efforts, because you need to learn this may well become another problem with another golf course development. So saying that you don't have the expertise to be involved in it, well, get involved and learn from it, because it's the city's responsibility to make sure that our safety is paramount when any kind of contaminants are being cleaned up. So I'd urge the city to get involved with this remediation, work with the State Department of Environmental Protection, and ensure that the safety of the citizens is being the predominant paramount, so that you learn how this works and how to deal with it. If it comes up again, you'll know what to do. So I urge you not to just wash your hands of this, but please get involved, and so that we can be sure that you're looking out for our safety. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Are there any, yes, sir?
Yes, I'm Mark Stansel from Palm Coast. I was just wondering if the status of the possibility of BJ still coming here? That's all. Thank you.
Okay, I appreciate that. I will, city manager, I guess you'll have staff follow up regarding that question. It's outside of the city. It's part of the county at this point in time, so.
Yes, thank you, Mayor.
So we'll get a contact for you. Very good. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Denise Calderwood. Just a comment or a statement to follow up with what one of the citizens said. To my recollection, the county, and i.e. the city, is still under the FEED relationship, which was the Flagler Economic Enhancement District. It was a federal grant that the county received through the former Chamber of Commerce and the Flagler Economic Development Council. And what that was a grant funded to do brownfield remediation and cleanups. And Mayor, you're familiar with that project from Bunnell. So that is still in effect, so they have free consultants that are available under the FEED program to Flagler County. There were over 520 parcels that were identified in Flagler County. And golf courses, as was pointed out, are valid properties to be cleaned up. Same thing with closed laundromats, but okay.
Thank you for your comment. Any remaining members of the public would like to address City Council at this time, City Council members at this time? Seeing no one come forward, I will move to discussion by City Council of matters not on the agenda, and I'll start with Vice Mayor, work our way down.
I have none. It's just good to see you back here.
I appreciate that, thank you.
I might give you your space back, but I'll keep it for a while.
Very good. Councilperson Pontieri, any City Council comments this evening?
I'll echo Councilman Danko's welcoming to you. It's good to see you. I would propose that we do put a review of the city charter on a workshop. I know Mr. Martin has pointed out some, I think, important points about our current charter. Specifically, I know that this was somewhat initiated due to the issue regarding salaries being either a referendum or a vote from council, and I share the concern. So in addition to a lot of other things that are in our charter, and I think things that can make it stronger. So I would like to see it on a future workshop, and rather soon if possible, so that we could get the process moving prior to the next election.
I appreciate your comment, and I would agree with you. Since we have opened up, or we have an initiative, I believe, to begin the review of our comprehensive plan, it would seem to me that reviewing the charter would be a natural aligning discussion that we could have. The city has now become the #1 city in our MSA, or Metropolitan Statistical Area, and I think it behooves us to make sure that our charter will carry us forward for the next however many years, so I think that is appropriate, and I would look forward to that too, so I would support that initiative.
I have no further comments.
Very good. And finally, I thank everybody for your best wishes, and I would just share with the public that my recent illness is far behind me. I am well ahead of my expectations. I can't tell you how wonderful it is to hear from city council members, from city staff. Everybody was wonderful. I only hope that I can find a way to return the favor to all of those in their times of need as well. So with that, I thank you very much. And I turn next to City Council. Do you have any, I'm sorry, yes, City Council?
Yes, I have a couple
Good.
updates, Mayor, and just some legislative updates. Senate Bill 102, I can explain what that is, but it's the affordable housing regulation that's being considered. That is on a special order calendar for tomorrow. From what I've heard, it's got a very good chance of passing. And basically what this will do, you know, in a nutshell, I won't go into it specifically, but you're welcome to give me a call if you'd like me to give you a full analysis of it. But it would preempt local government zoning requirements in commercial and mixed-use areas as it pertains to affordable housing projects on things like density, height, and zoning in general. So that's just really the biggest thing that it does, but I can go into more if you'd like to give me a call, feel free to. Today, House Bill 133 was filed. This has to do with water and wastewater revenues, and kind of two main things that it would do is it would cap the service charge that we currently charge through our utilities to those properties that we serve outside the city's jurisdiction to 10%. I think the current charge is at 25. Steve,
Yes.
is that right? We currently charge 25%. This bill would limit that charge to 10%. And it also restricts, puts some restrictions on transfers of water and sewer revenues into the general fund. And finally, Senate Bill 1240, that was filed on February 27th. That bill would prohibit cities from adopting regulations relating to water quality and quantity, pollution control, pollutant discharge, and wetlands. It basically preempts those regulations, would preempt those regulations to the state. So those are just a couple of the updates on.
Thank you for
more
that.
recent
And City Manager, I would just ask you, since we have a study that was already presented to us, just to ask staff to take a quick look if the special district water supply is, the revenue is reduced by more than half, does it have a significant impact on the numbers that were presented? I don't know the volume there. I doubt it, but it's worth a check, because I also agree that there's momentum behind that bill and it's liable to, shoot through. So let's just take a look.
We will. Thank you, Mayor.
All right, with that, City Manager, final comments for this evening?
Just welcome back, Mayor. I have nothing further.
Very good. All right, well, that brings us to one last item. Nope, that's it. I would ask for a motion to adjourn. Well, thank you all for attending this evening. And with that, I would ask for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make it.
I have a motion to adjourn. May I have a second?
Second.
Adjourn. Thank you all.